scroll social media long enough, and eventually the franchise dream will find you. It might look like this: start your own franchise business, become your own boss in just a few weeks, proven system, low risk, seven-figure opportunity. Or it might just sound like this: I almost lost my life savings. Avoid these red flags. Don't invest blind. Different message, same funnel. And today, we're going to break that down, because before you ever see a franchise disclosure document, before you read item 19, before you understand the risks, you've already been sold something. But before we get into all of this, let me tell you why I care so much about this topic. My name is Genevieve, and I'm the founder of Franchise Reality Check. I spent 2 decades inside the franchise system as a multi-unit franchisee, and since then, I've made it my job to break down franchise disclosure documents and help people understand what they're actually signing up for before they invest. Because here's the reality: franchising isn't inherently good or bad. There are great systems out there. There are also systems that look great on the surface and fall apart under real-world conditions. And the problem is, most people aren't being taught how to tell the difference. They're being marketed to. So what I do now is take everything from what I've learned, from operating inside of a system to reading FDDs to analyzing how these deals actually work, and I translate it into plain English. No sales pitch, no affiliate relationships, just what you need to know before you sign. So let's talk about what's actually happening here. What you're seeing isn't just random ads, it's a sales funnel, and it usually looks like this. And by the time you get to the FDD, you're not neutral anymore. You're invested emotionally, mentally, sometimes financially. So let's start with the dream, because this part hasn't changed. You'll see things like start your own franchise business, become your own boss in just a few weeks, a proven, repeatable framework. That's not accidental language. That's engineered. It's hitting very specific pressure points. You're tired of your job. You want more control. You want a financial upside. You don't want to start from scratch. And then the magic phrase, proven system. That phrase does a lot of work because it quietly tells your brain that the risk has already been figured out. But that's not how franchising works. Now here's where things get more interesting, because the funnel has evolved. It doesn't always start with the dream anymore. Sometimes it starts with fear. I almost lost my life savings. Avoid these red flags. Financial disaster. This is extremely effective because now you're not being sold to. You're being protected. And the person behind the ad, they're not just a salesperson, they're the rescuer. You'll also see language like no sales pitch, fact-based review, free second opinion. And on the surface, that sounds great. But here's the question you need to ask. What happens after you click? Do they collect your info? Do they book a call? Do they recommend brands? If yes, you're not outside of the funnel. You're directly inside of it. Now let's talk about the free value, because this is where trust gets built. You download something like 42 high-performing franchises or 5 low-cost franchises that make $1 million+, and it looks legit. It references FDD data. It uses real numbers. It sounds researched, and then you see language like reduce your risk, money-making franchise, high-performing. But here's the problem. It's still marketing, because buried in the same document, you'll find this: information only, no guarantees, consult professionals, review the FDD. So now you've got 2 competing messages. The headline says, you can do this. The disclaimer says, you need to verify everything. That tension is the entire story. Let's look at a real example, Rolling Suds. The guide positions it as explosive growth, 170 plus territories, 33 to 37% margins, national accounts, scalable model. Sounds great, right? I've already completed a reality check report for Rolling Suds, and I break down what else is in the FDD, or not in, as the case may be, that isn't reported in this freebie guide. I'll link it in the comments. Now here's the reality check. Rapid territory growth is not the same thing as system stability. Selling franchises is not the same thing as supporting franchisees. And corporate margins, they're not franchisee margins. This is a labor-heavy local service business. That means hiring, retention, vehicles, fuel, seasonality, local demand. All of that matters. And those don't show up in a headline. Now let's talk about what happens when the funnel meets reality. Dirty Dough. This brand exploded in popularity. Hundreds of franchises sold. Huge momentum. Big story. But according to reporting and analysis, a significant number of those locations never opened, and the company faced lawsuits. That's the gap between selling the opportunity and operating the system. And here's where it gets even more interesting, because after situations like that, you sometimes see a rebrand. Founder and CEO becomes mentor, coach, consultant, now positioned as someone who can guide you through the franchise buying process. And look, experience matters, even hard-earned experience, but buyers need to ask, what is the track record behind the advice? Because mentor is not a regulated term. It's a marketing position. Here's the biggest issue. The funnel is really good at showing what's possible, what top performers did, what the system can do. It is not good at showing how many never opened, how many struggled, how long it takes to break even, how much capital it actually takes. That information exists, but it's not in the ad. It's in item 20, litigation history, and calls with existing and former franchisees. If you're looking at a franchise, flip the process. Start with item 1, 3, 7, 19, 20. Talk to real franchisees. Ask the uncomfortable questions, and most importantly, separate the story from the system. The franchise sales funnel isn't illegal. It isn't always wrong, but it is designed to move you from curiosity to belief to action. And if you don't slow that down, you can end up making a six-figure decision based on a marketing narrative and not a business reality. And that's exactly why Franchise Reality Check exists, because this industry doesn't need more sales pitches. It needs better educated buyers. If you're looking at a franchise right now and you want someone to actually break down the FDD with you and not sell you something, that's what I do. Link to my website's in the description.